advertising was all conceived in the copywriter's room, all English speaking copywriters, talking to a country which a very minority of them thought and spoke like the copywriters who were writing the advertising, which changed drastically up till now. But how do you see that change where we started, it was extremely westernized. Even the thought process for selling was westernized. The ads were all in English. The jingles were all rock music or classical opera. And how do you see the change to becoming truly Indian in our thinking and advertising? When did it happen? And
I was discussing this with an IAS officer a few days ago, saying that, look, we are the fifth largest economy, but then we still have poverty, right? The bottom 20% is still poverty. So he had an interesting point. He said, look, when we got independence, only 17% of India was above the poverty line. 83% were poor. We were a poor country. So advertising then was aimed at the rich people. So as a result, it was in English. And the heritage came from the Britishers who used to run the ad agencies. They used to train copywriters, used to write good quality English. So advertising was largely in English newspapers. Advertising was written in English. The copywriter used to type it out in their little old, little Remington typewriters and tear out the copy sheet, give it to the art director to kind of visualize it. If you remember, going back to America, it was actually in the 1940s or 50s when Doyle Dane Bernbach broke the wall. Earlier, copywriters used to sit on one floor.
Absolutely correct.
And the copy sheet used to go down to the bottom floor for the art directors to lay it out. But he said, no, art and copy will sit together. So early advertising was all English dominated. You're part of it. Theatre group used to dominate, speak very good English. Many of them came from theatre.
All came from theatre.
And they could actually go and charm a client by acting it out. I like Padam C. Gerson. You could go and act out a story in front of the client, and the client used to get so mesmerized, he'll approve the advertising. So that was English, very English, right? Advertising written in English, everyone spoke English. I got a whiff of the change in 1979 when I joined Rediffusion, because at that time, Kamlesh Pandey was a copywriter and Arun Kale used to sit together.
Yes.
And Kamlesh was a hardcore Hindi writer. Hindi writer. In fact, we used to make a joke, this Kamlesh fellow thinks in Hindi, writes in English.
Okay.
Right? That was the beginning. Kamlesh started that. He started writing funny scripts.
He went on to write movies.
Yeah, he wrote Tezab.
Right? Tezab, he wrote, yes.
And then later, this trend gathered momentum. See, that time, advertising used to attract only the boys from St. Xavier's and St. Stephen's.
Yeah.
And then as advertising became more and more popular, it started attracting people from smaller towns. Kamlesh being one, and of course, Piyush and Prasoon and Balki, all these guys came in and they changed the complexion of advertising. So advertising is no longer English driven. It is Hindi. It is conceived in Hindi, written in Hindi, presented in Hindi.
It's Indian driven.
And it's Indian.
Yeah,
it's become more and more. So as a result, what has happened today, advertising has to appeal to a larger number of people who live in small towns. You can no longer do that. So I still miss my Morning Times of India in 1979 and 80, which used to have those wonderful ads. Copywritten
beautiful copy.
Christopher Rosario's copy and Kamlesh Pandey's copy, Mohammad Khan's copy, Frank Simois's
copy, yes.
Right, wonderful ads, used to love. In fact, we used to read the ad more than the news.
Yeah.
Right, today ads are just sale ads, right? Wonderful ads, but they are gone. Today it's all Indian language. It's more of an Indian idiom, and which is good for the country.
So which in your memory were the first, I wouldn't say one ad, but the first few ads which broke this Western colonial English charp and sort of made, this is our ad, our Indian ad, which was one of the first ads that you remember?
Difficult to name one, but probably Hamara Bajaj, kind of had a very Indian rootedness to it, and it had a lot of Indian symbolism to it, and it made us all feel very good. And the other ad which brought English into mainstream, English is very interesting, right? It's a mix of Hindi, English. The person who actually started writing in this English style was Devyani Chauba, who wrote for, Star and Style, right?
Yeah.
So she wrote it, and then Chauba Day picked it up in Stardust. In advertising, the early campaign used English was the Humko Binis Mangta.
Okay.
Read my lips.
Yeah.
I love Uncle Chips.
Yes.
That was one of the early campaigns.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Doodh 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 had literally one line in Hindi, one line in English. So these are the kind of landmark campaigns which kind of were more rooted in the Indian idiom, right? About the country, right? About
And then Amul Butter, which is probably the oldest running campaign in the country right now.
Kunal, Amul is and I talk about Amul even in international forums, people wonder how it's being done because I tell them, look, Amul agency is the same. They've been handling this business for the last 40, 50, 60 years.
Correct.
And very often the client doesn't even see the ad before it goes up on the hoarding. The client sees it the next day.
Yeah.
Total freedom to the agency.
Yeah.
So people say, how do they allow it? They allow it because they have trust. Because they know probably Sylvie and now Rahul is as worried about brand Amul, they will not do something wrong. So, having worked in advertising, one of the big things, fear which you have is when you present something to a client, and if your client is the kind of client who will approve anything you present, you better present good stuff.
And your responsibility becomes larger.
100%. So when you go to a client, you take 3 alternatives, and then I ask the team which is going, say, which one would you prefer? Say, option A. Say, why are you taking option B and C? No, they can shoot it down. So, sorry, don't take option B and C, take option A.
Yeah.
Right. Be ready. If the client picks option B,
you'll have to go with it.
You should run with it.
You'll have to go with
then
it.
you take both.
Yeah.
Right. That's the level of trust Amul has with its agencies, saying, look, you recommend it, go ahead. You don't even need to show it to us.
Yeah.
Right? This is amazing. I don't think it exists anywhere in the world.
No, and you're right, because I've worked on the campaign. I used to write the Amul Butter hoardings at one point of time. And Dr. Kurian, who ran Amul in all those years, has, even when the hoarding has gotten borderline controversial and has faced flack from government or parliament, Dr. Kurian has stood behind the advertising agency and his advertising, which is rare. It doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. So, in fact, just to talk a little bit, we can keep talking about Dr. Kurian, but there's an interesting story about this Dara film, which is one of my favorite films, about this little kid who's seen sitting in a railway station. There is an old man wearing a khaki uniform walking down, and the little kid and the old man looks at him and says, Bablu? Idhar baithe ho? And the little kid says, Ramu kaka, ghar chhod ke bhag raha hu. क्या? मम्मी ने बहुत गुस्सा किया. So then the old man Ramu Kaka says, लेकिन मम्मी तो जलेबी बना रही है. So he says, जलेबी? And next thing you see, the little kid is sitting on the old man's cycle and they're cycling all the way home. And the mummy is making jalebi. Mummy gives jalebi to the kid. Kid is very happy. Papa says, घर छोड़ के जाना है. घर छोड़ के तो जाना है, लेकिन 10-20 साल बाद. Right? Apparently this ad ran. And a couple of months later, there was some newspaper report in Punjab Kesari or somewhere that 3 kids were spotted in some bus stand saying they're running away from home because the mummy is not making jalebi.
Jalebi. Which brand was this?
Dhara.
Dhara oil.
Okay.
Correct,
Dhara,
yes.
cooking oil.
Dhara
So this news went up to, the agency, and the team went to Dr. Kurian and said, Dr. Kurian, this news has come in the paper. What do we do? So Dr. Kurian said, keep running the ad. The ad is working.
This is the thing.
That's a sign of a great client, right? It's a sense of humor. Yeah, run the ad. It's working.
So we used to have this thing which say, a client will get what advertising he deserves.
Absolutely. I tell my clients all the time, you will get the advertising you deserve.
Yeah.
Like you hire the best agency. If you chew them up, they will produce lousy ads.
Lousy ads.
You hire the lousiest agency, you make them fly, you'll produce great ads.
Great ads.
Right? So it's all, every client gets the advertising he or she deserves. So, Indian advertising has had these legendary clients who've been lovely. And we also had our share of lousy clients.
Oh, we've had a lot of ad lousy. I quit advertising because of that. I couldn't deal with it anymore.